How does a renovation work in Italy? What are the costs? And what permits do you need before getting started? In this video, I'll answer the most common questions on the topic. Let's dive in. First of all, how are Italian houses built? Before discovering all the secrets of renovations, let's briefly see how buildings are constructed here in Italy. The most commonly used material for the load-bearing structure of houses is bricks. Most homes, even very old ones, are made of this material, which we find in the walls, floors and roofs of the houses. The second most used material is stone, present in some types of buildings such as cottages, mountain houses and buildings in old villages. The houses for sale that you will visit will almost certainly have a brick or stone structure, depending on the type of property and its location. On the other hand, you will never find a building with a completely wooden structure, because in Italy this construction technique is not widespread. What are the phases of a complete renovation? A complete renovation includes 6 phases. Let's briefly see what they are, in chronological order. The first phase is the demolition of the interior, during which all the materials and finishes of the rooms are removed, including floors, kitchen and bathroom tiles, bathroom fixtures, doors, windows and radiators. In this initial phase of the work, the old systems and their components are also removed, as well as the walls that are no longer necessary, as indicated in the project. At the end of a complete demolition, the rooms will look like this. In a partial demolition, however, the original floors and other finishes may remain. The second phase concerns the construction of the new walls. These works are only necessary if the project involves the construction of new walls to modify the distribution of the interior spaces. Otherwise, we will proceed directly to the third phase. In the third phase, the house's systems are redone, namely the plumbing, electrical and heating systems. This is a broad and fairly complex topic, so I'll make an in-depth video just for the systems, where I'll show you how they're made and how they work, and I'll also answer the most frequently asked questions. The fourth phase includes a series of construction works, but the main one is the construction of the new screed. The screed is a layer of mortar placed under the floor that has several functions. It hides the underlying systems, levels the surface, and provides a stable support for the floor. During a complete renovation, the screed is always redone. During the first phase of the work, the original one is demolished, while in the fourth phase, the new one is made. If, on the other hand, you choose to keep the existing floors or to lay overlapping floors, it will not be necessary to redo the screed. The other jobs in this phase of the renovation are to cover the chases on the walls, which mark the path of the pipes for the systems, and to finish the walls. The fifth phase involves laying the new floors and wall coverings for the kitchen and bathrooms. The most commonly used flooring in Italy is ceramic, particularly stoneware, followed by wood and floating floors such as PVC, laminate and SPC. Stoneware is very popular because it is a practical and easy-to-clean floor, and also because Italy is one of the world's leading producers of ceramics, which means that this type of material is very common in flooring showrooms. The sixth and final phase includes a series of final works. The first job is to install the windows and all the other related elements. Next, the bathroom fixtures and fitting are installed, including the accessories. After that, the doors, skirting boards, radiators and boiler are installed, unless you have chosen another heating system. Then follows the installation of the lighting, and finally the painting of the walls and ceilings. Wooden and floating floors, unlike ceramic ones, are installed at this stage, when the windows are already in place. In summary, these are the 6 stages of a complete renovation of the interior of a house. Depending on the type of property, there may be slight differences, but the order of the stages is as follows. If you buy a single house or a portion of one, you will have to add the external works, such as redoing the roof, the gutters, painting, and other external work that may be necessary. I will also make a series of in-depth videos on the phases of renovation. Do you need authorization to renovate a house? It depends on the work you need to do. According to Italian building regulations, most renovation work falls into one of two categories: routine maintenance or non-routine maintenance. Routine maintenance is a small-scale work involving the repair, renewal, or replacement of finishes or systems. Some examples are interior or exterior painting, laying new flooring, replacing old bathroom fixtures, changing doors and windows, or repairing an electrical outlet. Extraordinary maintenance interventions are more complex and involve significant changes to the original condition of the house. Some examples are the demolition or construction of walls, the renovation of bathrooms, or replacement of old systems. The main difference between the two categories, besides the complexity of the work, is that routine maintenance work does not require authorization, while extraordinary maintenance does. The correct technical term for this authorization is titolo abilitativo, or pratica edilizia, though people commonly refer to them as permessi. The typical renovation of a house, or of some rooms in it, almost always includes extraordinary maintenance work, so you will probably need authorization. Depending on the nature of the work, you will need a 𝗦𝗨𝗚𝗚𝗘𝗦 or a 𝗑𝗕𝗓. These documents describe the work to be carried out, the start date, and information about the house and the owner. The preparation and compilation of a 𝗦𝗨𝗚 or a 𝗑𝗕𝗓 must be entrusted to a professional called progettista or tecnico. The homeowner cannot handle the paperwork himself. Once the authorization has been submitted, you can start work. What happens if the renovation requires authorization, but it is not submitted? In these cases, there are administrative sanctions ranging from 1,000 euros to several thousand euros. In addition, the municipality can order the immediate suspension of the works until the building intervention is regularized from an administrative point of view. Which professions are involved in a renovation? The first professional involved in a renovation is the designer, who handles permits, 𝗦𝗨𝗚 or 𝗑𝗕𝗓, and the house's design, including any changes to the interior layout. In Italy, this profession figure is also called technician, so we can say that the designer and the technician are the same thing. Is the technician indispensable? No, he is only necessary for extraordinary maintenance work, which, as we have seen, requires authorization from the municipal authorities. The second figure is the construction company, which will carry out the work. You can entrust the renovation to a contractor, who will manage the work of his workers, or to independent craftsmen who will work autonomously, without the supervision of a contractor. The third professional is the site manager or construction manager, in Italian direttore dei lavori, whose job is to check the quality of the company's work, to ensure that the renovation proceeds according to the agreements established in the contract. According to Italian law, the owner can also take on the role of site manager, but since the owner often does not have the necessary skills to manage a construction site, this task is entrusted to a professional, who in most cases is the designer. Another professional figure is the safety coordinator, in Italian coordinatore per la sicurezza, whose job is to draw up a plan that establishes the rules for working safely on the construction site. This role is entrusted to a technician, often a colleague of the designer, or the designer himself. If the renovation involves modifying one of the structural elements of the house, such as load-bearing walls, pillars and floors, a structural engineer is also needed. His job is to design, analyze, and verify the load-bearing structures of the building, ensuring that they are safe, stable, and durable, even after the modifications made during the works. This is necessary, for example, when a window or door is created on a load-bearing wall. The last figure is the thermotechnician, required in renovation that involve the complete overhaul of the heating system, or in cases where there is a project to upgrade the energy efficiency of the house. To summarize, the people involved in a renovation are the designer, who draws up the plans and prepares the authorization for the work, if necessary, the construction company or the craftsman, who carry out the work, the site manager, who is often the designer, responsible for managing the construction site, the safety coordinator, a role carried out by the designer or another technician, in charge of guaranteeing safety during the work, the structural engineer, only necessary when work is carried out on the structural parts of the house, and finally the thermotechnician, required when the entire heating system is redone or an energy requalification project is carried out. What is the role of the owner of the house? Even if the owner is not directly involved in the work, under Italian law, he is the main person responsible for the renovation, even if the technician and the operational part of the intervention is entrusted to professionals in the sector. This means, for example, that in case of problems with the safety of the construction site or administrative non-compliance, the owner can be held legally responsible. Is it possible to renovate a house on my own? Yes, it is possible to carry out the work independently or with the help of craftsmen. But you are always required to comply with all the rules and regulations. This means that you will have to present authorization to the local council, if the work requires it. And therefore, you will need a designer who will also manage all the administrative aspects of the renovation, working either independently or with the help of other professionals. How much does it cost to renovate a house in Italy? In recent years, the cost of renovating a house in Italy has risen considerably, mainly due to the pandemic-related surge in the price for material and inflation. Currently, the average cost for a full interior renovation of a house or flat in Italy ranges from approximately 1,000 and 1,300 euros per square meter. This means that the complete renovation of a 100 square meter property will cost between 100,000 and 130,000 euros. This range includes all the building work necessary to demolish and completely renovate the interior, including the replacement of systems and the refurbishment of finishes, such as floors, walls, doors, windows, and bathroom fittings. With this expense, moreover, the level of finish and material will be of good or excellent quality, like that of the properties you're seeing, which have also been renovated at a cost of around 1,000 euros per square meter. Exterior work is excluded, because unfortunately it is difficult to establish a precise price per square meter for such work. What is certain is that in some cases these costs can significantly affect the overall investment. Also excluded are the costs for design and all the other requirements of the project, which can account for up to about 10% of the cost of the entire renovation. It is important to specify that this range of expenditure is a national average, and therefore applies to any area of Italy. I have been working in the construction industry for many years, and I can guarantee that this is the price for a complete interior renovation. If you carry out a partial renovation, the cost per square meter will obviously be lower. How should you structure the payments for the work? Payments to the company for the execution of the work should always be divided into several installments, based on the progress of the renovation. Basically, each completed phase of the construction site corresponds to a partial payment, proportionate to the cost of the work. This method of payment, known as SAL, is very common in the Italian construction industry. Here is a realistic example of how payments could be organized for a renovation project worth 100,000 euros. 10% upon signing the contract, 10% upon completion of demolition work, 30% upon completion of the installation work, 30% upon completion of the flooring and wall covering work, 10% upon completion of the installation of doors and windows. Finally, 10% when the building site is closed. This payment scheme is mainly used for renovating houses and apartments, which require months of work. For simpler, shorter, and less expensive jobs, payment can be divided into a smaller number of installments. The system guarantees a constant alignment between the work carried out and the payments made. It is also an effective tool for protecting your investment. Don't make the mistake of paying large advances when signing the contract. 10–15% is enough. If a company asks for a 40, 50, or 60% advance, I advise you not to sign and to look for another solution, because some untrustworthy companies disappear after collecting significant advances. Why are some Italian houses protected or restricted? Some Italian properties of historical or artistic interest are subject to restrictions by the Cultural Heritage Office of the Ministry of Culture. The owner of these houses or apartments cannot renovate or modify them freely, but must first request authorization from the competent public body, which has the task of preserving the cultural or historical value of the property. Renovations to historic or artistic buildings are more complex and expensive than normal renovations. Are there Home Depot or other large DIY stores in Italy? The Home Depot brand doesn't exist in Italy, but there are alternatives. The most well-known is Leroy Merlin, a chain of home improvement stores present in many areas of Italy. At Leroy Merlin, in addition to finding DIY equipment, you'll also find materials and some furnishings, especially for the bathroom. Remember that it's a large chain for DIY, so the quality isn't the best on the market. If you don't have any particular needs, it could still be fine. The shops you see are some of the main alternatives to Leroy Merlin. Is it difficult to renovate a house in Italy? The answer, unfortunately, is yes, but I think this is the case all over the world. The main problem, as always, is finding a serious, competent company that is able to correctly manage the inevitable unforeseen events that arise during the work. I want to be honest. Italy's construction sector does not have a good reputation, even among Italians, and renovations are often experienced as stressful and complicated. There is no magic formula to avoid problems, but in the next videos I'll show you the mistakes to avoid and how renovations are carried out, with all the details about the various jobs. If your goal is to buy a house in Italy, in the description you'll find my video on everything you need to know about the buying process. If you found this video useful, please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Bye!